Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Katie Ralston-Howe, Workforce Director for the North Dakota Department of Commerce, and today we are so excited to tell you about our revamped Find the Good Life in North Dakota Talent Attraction Initiative. For several years, North Dakota has had a low unemployment rate and one of the highest labor participation rates in the nation, which means we need to address talent attraction a little differently in order to remain competitive in this space, because states all across the nation are facing the exact same challenge that we are. To do this, we have partnered with a company called RoleCall, a talent attraction agency that has developed infrastructure to help us track leads through the job search and relocation process. Throughout the last several months, we have had a lot of interest from communities and employers across the state, and it's clear that everyone wants to learn about how they can benefit from this initiative. At this time, I will turn it over to Winona Dimeo-Ediger and Tim Carty, the founders of RoleCall, to tell you more about what this program will look like. Thank you, Tim and Winona, for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you from here.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear us okay. We're having some technical difficulties this morning getting our cameras and mics synced up on this, but we can assure you that even though you can't see us, we are both beaming right now. So just trust us on that. Thank you all for joining us. As Katie said, this is a really exciting program. We're really excited to be here with you and kind of give you this overview and kind of get the whole state on board with what's going on and how you can be a part of it. So let's jump in. Can you go to the next slide, Melissa? There we go. So what we're going to cover with you today in the next hour or so is an overview of who we are and what we do. So just Tim and I's background, kind of a little bit about RoleCall, about talent attraction in general, and what the goals of this program are and how it differs from other workforce development efforts. Then we're going to talk specifically about North Dakota's statewide talent attraction program, really what sets this program apart from what all other states in the country are doing right now, what sets it apart from what North Dakota has done in the past, and then also the why, why we're doing this, why the state is prioritizing this work and investing in this work and why it's important, and also, why now, right? Then we'll talk about the how, kind of the processes behind it, what it actually looks like and how it works. We'll talk about how you fit into the process and how every single North Dakotan has a real role to play in this work. And then we'll wrap it up with kind of an overview of this idea of yes and, which is as we've traveled through the state and had lots of conversations, we found a theme arising that so many questions about this program, the answer often is yes and, why this program is really additive and valuable and really just adds to all of the great work already being done. So let's dig in. So just to get started, let's do some quick intros. I'm Winona, that's me, and a little bit about my background and how I got into this work. So I am a marketer and a writer and a content creator, and I have been working in the place marketing and travel writing space for about a decade now. Before I co-founded RoleCall with Tim, I was the editor-in-chief of a site and a brand called livability.com. And in that role, I got to work with cities and states across the country and really help them capture and communicate their stories, specifically about and to talent. So it was really about, why is this a great place to live? Why is this a place that has great opportunities, great career paths, really focusing on why places were a great place to live and work. And so I just love being able to capture and communicate the story of a place and, tell the story of quality of life and opportunity. And it's been a really fun journey so far, getting to do that with North Dakota, and I'm excited to continue.
And I'm Tim. I'm the one with the dark hair. My background is a little bit more on the practical economic development side. I've got a background in working with the Chamber of Commerce and a regional economic development organization where I ran talent attraction programming, built and maintained community onboarding programs, so ways to welcome new community members into our region, and worked lots with employers and making sure that they were having a say in the types of candidates we were recruiting, the types of jobs they were struggling to recruit for, and just really making sure that employers and community members were really part of the talent attraction process, kind of from start to finish. And so just to fill you in a little bit more about us and what we do at RoleCall on the next slide, Melissa. So what is RoleCall? Our job is to help places attract new residents, engage with them, and help them thrive in their place. So we're a national talent attraction agency working with different places from coast to coast. But our job with North Dakota is very specific in that we're looking for new residents and connecting them with jobs, and lots of work goes in between point A to the eventual point B of relocating to North Dakota. And we'll talk a lot about what this means about North Dakota as a state and how North Dakota is a leader in the talent attraction space from an economic development standpoint. And we're beyond thrilled to be part of this work and working with such great partners across the state. So on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about the difference between talent attraction and workforce development, because that's a question that comes up a lot. Because there's already a ton of great work being done in North Dakota on the workforce development end of the talent ecosystem, the workforce ecosystem. So when you take a look at North Dakota, and Katie referenced this earlier, but with a population of around 800,000 with a low unemployment rate that hovers around 2%, and there are 30,000 jobs open across the state at any given time, that's a challenge that needs to be tackled in a new way. So we need to drive new people from outside of North Dakota into the state to be able to fill those jobs immediately. So talent attraction's job is to build an immediate workforce and solve immediate workforce needs. When you take a look at workforce development and this critical work that's being done, those are things like career technical education, skills-based learning and careers-based learning, apprenticeships, internships. The work that's being done across the state in workforce development is to develop a future workforce. So working with elementary school students all the way up through soon-to-be high school graduates and community colleges, that's workforce development. So that's building pipelines for trades or healthcare or hospitality. Work that's being done with our future workforce is really kind of lives in workforce development. What we're doing is talent attraction, so it's just a little bit different. So, and obviously this is a big challenge, right? It's a tricky job to be able to convince somebody to move to a state that either they've already left and we want them to come back, or having somebody move to North Dakota for the first time. So I want to kind of step back and explain why we really wanted to kind of reach out to North Dakotans that maybe we haven't touched base with yet, and just talk to them about where their role is in talent attraction. So the picture here is a good friend of ours named Andrew Phillips. And Andrew works for LinkedIn. You should look him up. He's a great guy. And Andrew and his family relatively recently relocated to Lakeville, Minnesota, which is a southern suburb, kind of on the edge of the suburbs of Minneapolis. And Andrew's lived all over the country, went to college at Stanford. He's lived in DC. And when he and his wife decided they were ready to start a family, they're thinking about where they wanted to relocate. And so they decided to make the move back to his wife's hometown of Lakeville. And he was pretty psyched about it. He was happy that he was going to live near family, but, you know, still sort of wondering if they made the right decision. And so anyway, they moved in, and Andrew decides it's time to stock his bar, and he goes to the local liquor store, and he's kind of aimlessly wandering through the shelves, deciding which bottles are going to be a good fit for him to restock the bar with. And the clerk walks up, and the clerk, you know, kind of casually says, "Is there anything I can help you with?" And Andrew sort of explains no, that he's, you know, just moved into town, he's restocking his bar. And the clerk says, "Oh, that's cool, welcome, where'd you come from?" And Andrew says, "Well, we just moved in from Washington, D.C." And this is the interesting part of the story, and where it can take two different paths, and where we want you as North Dakotans and people who really are involved in the talent attraction process to really think about this piece of it. In that moment, the clerk said to Andrew, "Oh, wow, that's really cool. We're glad you're here. This is a great town. You're going to love it. It's great for kids. It's great for young adults. You're close to the cities," and just kind of went on this really quick sort of explanation about why she loved living in Lakeville, Minnesota. Instead of saying, "Oh, you moved here from DC, it's cold here, there's nothing to do, it's really boring, why would you relocate here from DC?" And in that moment, Andrew was lucky to have an experience with somebody who was really playing part of the talent attraction role. They're welcoming Andrew to the community. They were telling him it was a great place to live instead of the opposite, which could have completely changed his experience as a new member of the community. So think about that when you have that same opportunity. Talk about the great things that North Dakota has to offer, instead of being so surprised that somebody would ever relocate to North Dakota, because that's absolutely not the case. Go ahead, Melissa.
So let's get into now how Find the Good Life and this new initiative is going to attract talent to North Dakota in a totally new personal way, and kind of operationalize and scale that experience that Andrew had, and this sense of North Dakota nice and welcoming that we all are so proud of and want to communicate out. So I want to start with just giving you a little bit of the landscape of what talent attraction looks like nationally right now. If you look at this slide here, you'll see that, you know, every single state in the country has a website that's dedicated to communicating why they're the best state in the country to live. You know, their great quality of life, their job opportunities, come live here, come back and live here, come discover us, right? You could Google any state in the country, you'd find a website about why you should live there, why you should move there. These are great. Obviously, North Dakota is the best state in the country, but, you know, North Dakota wasn't alone in trying to get this message out to the world, right? What Tim and I have found in our experience and in the work that we've done in talent attraction and economic development is that talent attraction marketing has many different pieces. And you can see here that, you know, state websites that are focused on talent attraction are just one piece of a big talent attraction marketing puzzle, right? There's all kinds of digital marketing, there's public relations campaigns, there's tourism and community ambassadors and relocation guides and incentive programs, right, that are saying, we'll pay you $10,000 to move here. A lot of states and cities are experimenting with that. Job boards, all of these things are really important. They're being used and utilized in really creative ways across the country, and they have been in North Dakota as well. But what we saw at RoleCall was there wasn't really a central way to, you know, kind of direct all of these efforts into results and to track those results. So what we saw is the missing piece of this puzzle was what we call talent attraction infrastructure, right? So it's like the marketing is kind of this stuff that's happening up on the top, but there was no infrastructure below it, which to us meant systems to really capture leads from that marketing and then connect directly and personally with those leads convert them to new residents and prove success. Because if the point of all of this great marketing that people are doing is to actually inspire and, you know, catalyze people to actually relocate, to move across the country, to move to a new place, a blog post and a pretty picture isn't enough, right? People need real assistance, they need help, and they need it to be personal. So another kind of core tenet of how we do the work is what we call a path to yes. And that is basically the unique path that every single new resident to a place takes to get there. This path looks different for every single person. It's obviously very personal. I think all of us sitting in this webinar today, if you think about, you know, how did you end up in the place you live now? It's kind of a winding and interesting path to get there, whether you were born there and left and came back, whether you kind of discovered it, or maybe you met someone who lived there and they brought you there. There's so many ways to get to a place and so many kind of paths to yes. The idea though is every single resident has a totally unique one, right? So our job is to define this path and then deliver the things that people need along the way as they are making their path to North Dakota. So we know that this path starts with curiosity. We know that people need then, you know, so they get curious about North Dakota, right? They say, oh, this does look interesting. Maybe I do want to know more about living there. Next comes gathering information. They want to learn about the place. They want to learn about why it's a great place to live, the quality of life, all that great stuff. They also then need to know about job opportunities. They need personal connections in a place. It's really hard to move somewhere where you don't know anyone and you're not sure how to meet people, right? They need also content and information and context that's targeted and relevant to them, right? Tim and I use this example a lot. You know, Tim has 2 kids in elementary school and is super into like college sports, and just, you know, he has different interests than I do. I have a dog and I'm obsessed with like art museums and stuff. Like we would want and to see different content about a place and why it's relevant to us, right? And then finally, this piece of the puzzle that is often overlooked in talent attraction is what we call community onboarding. And we'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. This is a piece of the puzzle that is about not kind of calling it a win and calling it done when someone has relocated to a place, right? Obviously, every new resident we get to move to North Dakota is a huge win, but we don't want to just kind of leave them on their own to get engaged in a community, to meet people, to find their place in the new community, right? This is something that if you've ever moved somewhere, especially when you don't know anyone, you know that if you don't kind of get onboarded into the community, it's a very, very lonely experience. And a lot of times you end up moving back to where you moved from because you don't feel that sense of personal connection and you don't know kind of where you belong. So we wanted to make sure that our program with North Dakota included a really robust community onboarding portion. And this was also a way to, as I mentioned earlier, operationalize the idea of North Dakota Nice. This is a place where every single conversation we've had with North Dakotans across the country, with community leaders, with people who have lived here their whole lives and people who just moved a month ago, every single person talks so enthusiastically about the sense of community here, the sense of welcoming, the kind people who are really eager to help. So we knew that this was going to set North Dakota apart, and we had to create a program that we ended up calling Community Champions, and we're going to give you more details on that a little bit later. But that's what's going to set this program apart and ensure that all these new residents really know that they belong and know where they fit here. So the next piece of this that we really wanted to kind of like reiterate is that, you know, North Dakota is the first state to approach talent attraction in this way. What this really means about North Dakota is that the state is listening, right? The Department of Commerce is constantly on the road and meeting with employers, meeting with community leaders, and really asking them what they need, what their struggles are, what their obstacles are. And over and over and over again, they heard talent, The talent pool is too small. We're really struggling with the labor shortage. We need some support in that area. And so, you know, the Department of Commerce and the state said, we have to listen, we have to do something. We have to try something new. We have to take bold action on talent. This isn't something that we can be passive about at this point. We have to try something new. The other part of it that we really admire, honestly, on a personal level, but also we think this speaks volumes about North Dakota as a state, is this is a place that's really living its values. As we have toured the state and had these conversations and made observations and created, you know, new connections, we heard and saw over and over that this is a place that's innovative, it's collaborative, it's entrepreneurial, it's proactive, it's inviting. These are things that really are at the core of what North Dakota is. And so, of course, when it comes to a talent attraction initiative, all of those things need to be present, and they all need to be, it needs to be different. It needs to be, you know, North Dakotan. So we also wanted to talk a little bit about why now, right? Why is it important that this work takes place right now and we don't kind of, you know, wait 5 years and see what happens? Besides what Tim mentioned, which is just so many job openings are available right now across North Dakota, and the labor shortage is really hurting employers. There's a huge opportunity right now to actually draw in talent. With the pandemic and what we've all been through over the past few years, people are more mobile than ever. They're more willing to move. They're much less kind of tethered to a job in a certain place because of that job. People's priorities have also shifted quite a bit. They're looking for, you know, kind of a lower cost of living in general. They're looking for open space and, you know, outdoor recreation. They're looking for safety and a sense of community. Maybe these things were always a priority for them, but because of the pandemic and kind of the different ways that we're able to work remotely and be mobile now, people are able to act on those priorities in a new way. And so we want to make sure that everyone who has that first spark of curiosity on that path to yes, and who's interested in North Dakota has a real path to get here. And we also knew that the majority of people won't move without a job. So that was kind of the other piece of this, and that was a dot that we knew we needed to connect in doing this work, that we needed to give new residents that direct connection to employers. So let's get into kind of what's the actual plan for North Dakota. What does this work look like, and what are the components of it? So the central hub of this program is findthegoodlife.com. This is the state's talent attraction website. It was originally incarnated, I think, 7 or 8 years ago. And we decided that it made sense to kind of redesign, relaunch, revamp this site just to build on the history of it and create just a new energy around it. So we partnered with the state, the Department of Commerce, Tourism, and the fabulous marketing firm Odney to basically totally overhaul Find the Good Life and make it a sort of central place where you could find information about, you know, quality of life in North Dakota, why it's an awesome place to live. You could dig deeper into specific communities and why they're special and unique. It has beautiful photography, it's energetic, it's bright, it's such a fun site. We're really, really proud of it. We really encourage you to go check it out. And as you can see in the top corner of the website there, that little icon for the Relocation Help Desk, that is a big differentiator of this version of findthegoodlife.com and of this program in general. And we're going to get into the specifics of that a little bit later. But first, we wanted to share the key messages and kind of what drove the messaging and the strategy behind the new Find the Good Life. So what we wanted to capture and what we, again, saw and heard over and over in our time in North Dakota when we were kind of having all these conversations of what does set this place apart and what does make it special. We heard and saw this is a welcoming and inviting place in a really authentic way. This is a place that has these amazing, just the best people who are they're so excited to welcome newcomers, so kind and warm, and just really wanting people here and wanting to help them find their place. It's also a place that has a ton of opportunity in terms of just, this is a place to build your career. It's a place with amazing, growing, innovative companies with great people working across the state in economic development and business attraction. The business climate here is amazing, and that really translates to tons of opportunities for workers and entrepreneurs and employees. It's a great place to work and build your career. We also saw that it's a place that has many different lifestyle options. This is a place where you can live in a rural area, you can have a small town life, you can live in the middle of a big city and kind of have that urban, walkable life. There's many lifestyle options here for many different kinds of people. It's also a place that's proactive. I've mentioned this a couple of times already because this is really at the heart of this work and at the heart of what we saw while talking to people in North Dakota. We want to do things differently. We want to get out in front of this, and we want to connect with people in a proactive way. We also heard this phrase from our friend Rebecca Undum, who runs Growing Small Towns, and is just such an amazing advocate for North Dakota and for small town living specifically. But she told us when we were talking to her that one of her favorite things about living in North Dakota and about living in a small town specifically is you can throw the same rock and get a much bigger ripple from it, right? So just this idea that the impact you can make in North Dakota is much bigger than the impact that you know, kind of the effort you would have to put forth to make the same impact in, you know, a big city in a Portland, a Seattle, a New York City, obviously would just take a lot more effort. But here, not only can you make that impact, there's a ton of people around to really help you do that. And we also wanted to foster a sense of discovery and curiosity. We wanted to invite people in, say, this is a place where you can find the good life, come explore, come discover us. We'd love to have you. So the Find the Good Life site will be the central hub of this work and kind of the main branding that will drive this talent attraction effort. The way that we are handling the marketing of that, we're not going to get too into the specifics because there's different marketing that's going to be going out and rolled out in phases in the coming months. But we wanted to share with you the way we kind of strategize behind the marketing. The way that we are prioritizing this work is via 5 personas. So we basically we worked with the state to help develop 5 personas of people that North Dakota is most likely to get to relocate, and also the kind of types of people that employers need, and also figuring out the messages that will resonate with each of these people, right? So we identified these as the boomerang, the young family, the new grad, the remote worker, and the veteran. And I'm going to just pretty quickly go through each of these and just let you know a little bit more about what their priorities look like and kind of the why behind how we identified them. So the first one is called the boomerang. That is what we call someone who has a previous connection to North Dakota but moved away. So maybe they grew up here and went away for college. Maybe they grew up here and found a job somewhere else. Maybe they used to live here and don't live here anymore. But they have a connection and a strong affinity for North Dakota. And so for us, this is a great opportunity to kind of, you know, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, remember all the good stuff about North Dakota? It's even better now. And we would love to have you come back, come explore, come rediscover it, right? This persona probably has young kids or is wanting kids soon. So a lot of their motivations are around being closer to family or maybe giving their kids a similar experience as they had growing up. They also are really excited about the chance to shape the future of a place that means a lot to them. That's a key motivator for this persona. Next, we have the young family, and this is basically it's similar to the boomerang that we scoped out, but the difference is this person doesn't have a pre-existing notion or experience with North Dakota. So this is someone we have to kind of educate on why North Dakota is awesome and why they should give it a chance. This person, this young family is looking for, you know, a safe place to raise their kids. They're looking for opportunities for growth in all areas of their life, right? Not just career, but their social life and their personal development. And they're looking for a sense of community that they probably don't have. They probably live in a bigger city right now where they feel kind of anonymous and not super connected. And we want to make sure that they know if they're in North Dakota, they're not going to feel that way. They're going to feel very supported and really rooted in their community. Next, we have the grad. This is the new grad. So this is the persona that is capturing all of the graduates of all the great colleges, universities, and trade schools around North Dakota. A key part of this work that we're doing is making sure that we are retaining those grads, right? And really communicating to them that they do not need to leave North Dakota to go have a big, cool life and a big, you know, fancy career. There's so many great opportunities here. We just have to make them aware of what those opportunities are and how much, you know, help and support and resources there are to succeed here. It's really about awareness for this person and giving them those connections to thrive. The next one is a little interesting. This one is the remote worker. This is someone who is bringing their job with them and who actually is really, really excited about sort of the fact that they don't know a lot about North Dakota. That excites them, that thrills them. They want to kind of try something new and make it on their own in an unknown place to them. They're excited by risk and challenge. They want to kind of conquer the world. And one of the reasons we're going after remote workers is because, yeah, that person might not immediately fill a job opening in North Dakota, but in doing this work, we've seen over and over that if you can attract someone with a job, it's easier to get them to move here. And once they start interacting with local companies and opportunities, they're probably going to switch to a local company in the next, you know, few years that they're here. And finally, the last persona that we are prioritizing, and again, this is absolutely not the, you know, the only people that we're going after, but this is kind of how we're prioritizing and strategizing the marketing and the work. The last one is the veteran. North Dakota is an amazing, amazing place for veterans and for military families and for transitioning military members. This is a place that really prides itself on taking care of veterans and of giving them access to opportunities. So it's just our job to reach out to them directly and say, hey, whether you are on a base here and transitioning out or you're living somewhere else in the country and not sure where to land, we want you here. We are going to help you translate your military experience. We're going to connect you with all the amazing resources and organizations around the state that are already doing work to support vets and connect them with jobs. And we're going to give you that structure and stability that you need and deserve right now. We want you here, and there's a place for you here in North Dakota is really the key message for that persona.
Okay, so the next piece of it here, now that we've covered sort of the what we're doing, why we're doing it, is probably the question that most of you have on your mind is how all of this works. And so I'm going to take a little bit deeper dive into how all this works, how we're going to get candidates into the funnel, how we're going to move them down the funnel. And so one way to look at it is this is just sort of a kind of a typical sales funnel. And all of the stuff that we just talked about is to get people and dump them into the top of that funnel in where you see the discovery stage. So they're interacting with a piece of marketing. And our job as RoleCall is, and again, in partnership with the state and with Omni, is to move them further down that funnel until they finally get a great job and make the exciting move to North Dakota. We'll be asking them to fill out a series of forms. We'll talk about those. We'll be providing targeted content information based on the interests and industries and hobbies of the users. We'll take the talent and the candidates that we're collecting and we'll put them into a nice spreadsheet and drive them out to employers and community champions across the state. Then the community champions will connect the talent with local resources to help them make the decision. and the final goal of eventually moving to North Dakota. So again, taking a look at the Find the Good Life homepage here, again, kind of the central hub of the Find the Good Life 2.0 campaign, along with reading information about the state, helping make informed decisions for the candidates. We also have, like Winona referenced before, the Relocation Help Desk that you see at the top right-hand corner of the state. And that little module there is going to stay locked in at the top of the homepage on every single page that the user goes to. We really, really want them to take the action to click on that site or on that link to click through to our form. So on the next slide, you'll see another module that is built into every page on the website for the Relocation Help Desk. So here we're explaining a little bit more about what the process looks like for a user. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll help you find your place in North Dakota, and we'll connect you with community champions, employers that will help you make the move to North Dakota. So this is, again, something that we want the users to see a lot. We want them to take action, because we're not just like those other states you saw earlier, giving them blogs or stories or videos, or that's not enough to have somebody make a move. So we really want them to take the action, and when they're most interested in moving to North Dakota, when they click on that link, we want to take advantage of it. So once they do make the click, they go to the landing page that you see here. So this page you see here is the first of a series of 3 landing pages that we'll use to collect information on the users. We're always having them opt in. There's a privacy policy. We're not using this data or information for anything else other than helping prospective new residents move to North Dakota. We're not selling lists. We're not doing anything weird like that. All we're doing is having them opt into this process, getting their information so we can best get them relocated up to the great state of North Dakota. So the other information that we're gathering is a long list of things that, again, we know that we want to be able to answer questions about. So on the first form that you saw there, it was just getting their current location, their moving timeline, and some contact information like their name and email. But we know that in order to provide the best experience and personal experience possible, there's other information we need to know too. So we ask about specific cities or regions in the state in which they have interest, whether they are more interested in the urban or rural lifestyle. We want to know about their career goals. Where are they currently in their career? Where do they want to get to? What does their experience look like? What industry do they work in? Do they work in higher ed? Do they work in oil and gas? Do they work in UAS? What are the things that they work in? What's the industry they work in that they really want to continue to work in North Dakota? Do they have a military background? Are they transitioning out of the military? Are they a veteran? There's not a more veteran-friendly state in the country than there is in North Dakota, and we want to help get that message out. We also want to know their interest in hobbies. Do they enjoy hunting and fishing? Do they enjoy college sports? Do they need to know information for their kids about youth sports or grade schools or neighborhoods? Or what are the things that they need to know that align with their current lifestyle that we want to make sure they know they can experience in North Dakota too? And then the other thing that we want to know is we know employers are going to want to see these candidates' resumes. So we ask them to upload a resume in one of the forms. And we also know that they may be accessing these forms on their phone. So we have some work built into the back end through the software to make sure that we can continue to ask them and stay in contact with them to get their resume. And finally, we ask them if they'd like to be connected with a community champion. Do they want to be partnered with a current North Dakotan to help them answer questions, get resources to make their own decision about relocating? And so once we've got that information for them, we start what we call drip campaigns, or targeted content delivered directly to their inbox based on the answers we got from the questions on the forms. So if a user says that maybe they would like to work in the oil and gas industry and they've got family in Montana, so they're looking at the western part of North Dakota, we know that means that maybe Watford City is a good fit. and this is, again, just for an example, because there are obviously other good fits too, but we may send them an information about Watford City and say, hey, this is a great place for you to consider. Here's some information about Watford City. Or we might send them an email about their industry. Maybe this user said that they want to pursue a career in healthcare. And so now we want to make sure that they're getting industry information about their industry of choice. Now, if somebody tells us on the form that they want to work in the eastern part of the state, maybe they want to work in higher ed, we're not going to send them either one of these two emails because it doesn't align with the information that we've gathered. So we want to make sure that we're providing relevant and helpful and useful information for these people to, again, continue to make the processes smooth and easy and keep them along their path to yes and not veer off it. So we looked at the funnel before. Another way to take a look at this work is just sort of this graph here. So on the very top part of this graph, you see the statewide marketing efforts. So again, with the Department of Commerce and ODNI, we're doing things in workforce marketing. The Department of Tourism and Visit North Dakota is doing incredible work in talking about the state as a great place to visit. We're doing work in graduate retention with the colleges and universities across the state, and working with specific partners in veteran relocation and retention. So all of those marketing efforts are going to drive users to the Good Life website. So the central hub we talked about before. What we're going to do is we're going to sort the leads according to the region they're desiring and the industry that they work in. And we're going to send those out to local economic developers, chambers of commerce, employers, and connectors, community champions across the state to make sure that the white glove service that we're promising is actually going to be happening. And so the leads are distributed in a couple of ways. Obviously, we want to get these into the inboxes of the people who can do the hiring decisions. So people can request to live in a specific city or region. They can talk more about what topics they want to learn about. They can talk about the industries, like I mentioned before, and all of those things will be used for us to take that information and put the users into sort of kind of a broad idea of the personas we talked about before. Which ones do they most closely fit, so that we can provide, again, a great connection experience to the right employers, to the right community champions, and to the right regions across the state. Now, a user is never going to know that they're interacting with RoleCall. This is not our work. This is the work for the Department of Commerce in North Dakota. So really the tip of the spear here is Melissa Diebold, who is kindly ushering us through these slides. And so all of the leads that come in are going to come to Melissa. We'll do the organizing, but Melissa is going to be the one distributing the talent rosters to employers and the leads to the community champions. So Melissa is the crucial cog in this entire process, where you saw those arrows that were pointing into the middle that should really probably have been pointing to Melissa's picture here. She's really the linchpin of the operation, where everything is going to funnel through her, and she'll be distributing the information out the right way. And so the rosters are going to be filled with candidates. We're already starting to get some in from all over the country. And our job is to make those easily readable, easily accessible, and easily sortable for employers. So this is just an example here. These are made up names, but this is an example of what it'll look like. We'll always highlight the newest candidates, and you'll see their name, you'll see the candidate's email, you'll have a clickable link to the candidate's resume, you'll see whether or not they currently live or have previously lived in North Dakota. You'll see their timeline. We want to know if they're interested in moving immediately, if they want to move within the year, if they're just gathering information. Whatever their answer is there, we want to provide, again, the right cadence of information. If they want to move right away, that's going to be a lot different than somebody who's waiting until their kid graduates from high school in a year. The other thing you'll see there is their career level, and also what industry they work in, and a bunch more information too. All the information that we gather in our forums, we put into this roster. Again, you can take them and sort them by industry. We're going to try to make sure that each of the industries are sorted. So it'll be really, really easy to use, easy to see, and easy to get in touch with the candidates directly from this roster. The other way they're going to be connected, we've talked about this a few times, but here's kind of a look into what the community champions, at least the backs of their heads, look like in a training room last week in Bismarck. So there are 50 North Dakotans, and probably more than that, standing by ready to help candidates make the move to North Dakota. They're spread out across the state, equally represented across the 8 economic development regions of the state. And we've trained them up on what it means to be a community champion, how sort of they're expected to do the work, how they're things they're not expected to do. We want to make sure that not only are they representing themselves well, but also the state, the employers in the state, and really just continuing to spread the word about the good life in North Dakota. The job of a community champion, we say, is as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's just kind of an easy sort of training device that we use to make sure that they know exactly what they're supposed to do, and we have the expectations laid out pretty clearly for their prospective residents as well. So what 1, 2, 3 stands for is that a community champion will have at least one personal meeting, call, or video call with the prospective newcomer. Now, this could be a meeting in person if the candidate's already up for interviews, but it has to be more than an email. So they have to have one in-person meeting. 2 stands for an email about at least 2 of the interests that the candidate has expressed to the champion or we've gathered through the forums. So these can be links, they can be invitations to events, they can be, hey, here's a link to our local school district if you need to register, or it can be, here's a link and some photos for our local brewery if that's what they're interested in. It can really be whatever that user needs, again, to align with their lifestyle. And 3 stands for 3 connections that we need to make for the newcomer. So those can be, excuse me, connections to people that they get along with so they can help grow their network in North Dakota. So they can be personal connections. They can be professional connections for a job. They can be volunteer organizations or clubs if the person wants to really make a difference as a volunteer. Or they can even be job boards and links for the person to connect with future employment. So really, we want to just make sure that it's easily laid out, there's a specific plan in place, and that everybody sort of knows the expectations going in. And again, we're providing that concierge style, friendly, inviting, welcoming style of North Dakota out through the community champions. And so this is all great stuff, and we're really proud of the work, but you guys are probably here to learn more about where you fit in as just an interested North Dakotan wanting to learn more. So, and like we said before, every North Dakotan has a role to play in this work. So if we take a look at it from sort of the lens that we talked about with Andrew, remember him? Every North Dakotan is a talent ambassador. Everybody works in talent attraction. And your job is to be inviting, to be engaging, and to be welcoming. It's really not too much more than that as sort of like an interested citizen. The other way that you can help very tangibly is to talk up North Dakota and your city on social media. Tell people why you love living here. What makes your hometown unique and special? Tell everybody about it. We'll share it. The department might share it if they see it, especially while you're spreading the word. Share the link to the Relocation Help Desk. It's very easy to grab, very easy to share, and use the hashtag #GoodLifeND. And hopefully this thing can take on sort of a viral nature of its own. We can really start to tell the world about what makes North Dakota a great place to be. And finally, Winona touched on this pretty quickly in the intro here. But thinking about a lot of the questions we get are the ones you see on this slide in blue. We're already doing some of this recruiting work on our own. We don't have bandwidth to take on another complicated platform. This is just another tool that's being thrown at us. Or our time is really valuable and we don't have a whole lot of it to spare. Yes, all of those things are true. Yes, you're doing recruiting on your own, and this is another tool for you to find qualified candidates. Not only that, you can focus on selling your company, its culture, and the specific job. And this program will help sell the lifestyle of North Dakota. We know how busy recruiters and human resources and everybody is right now. And yes, you're busy, and the ease of use of this program is a central goal for everybody involved. We want it to be as easy as possible for the candidates, for the employers, for the state, and for the community champions, all to make it easy for everybody, so we're all doing the same work, we're speaking from the same language. And finally, we know your time is valuable, and our goal again is to make sure that this program saves you time in sourcing candidates, and hopefully you get a lot more candidates than you ordinarily would. And so that kind of wraps it up on our end. There are probably questions. We don't have a ton of time to really turn it over. But if you have them, I promise you we can answer them. So if you send those questions that you might have to Find the Good Life at nd.gov, the email you see on your screen, that'll go right to Melissa, and we can all work together to make sure your questions get answered. It's probably important to know that at some point we'll be looking for more community champions. So if that's something that's interesting to you, go ahead and make a mental note of that. And if there are ways that we can help, feel free to reach out. Winona and I are both pretty easy to find as well. And we want to make this as easy, and because the easier it is to use, the more it will be used. So a lot of work has gotten us to this point. We could not possibly be more excited about it. And thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in today and listening. And I'll turn it back over to Katie.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tim and Winona. This was amazing, and we share in your excitement about this initiative. I know that several questions did come in during this presentation, and know that we will be creating a frequently asked questions document and posting it on the Commerce website along with the recording of this webinar. And I also know that some media inquiries have come in. All media inquiries can be directed to Kim Schmidt at the Department of Commerce, and she will work with you to make sure that we're getting your answers or your questions answered, as we're super excited to broadcast the work that we're doing with RoleCall and with communities and employers all across the state. Thank you to everyone who joined us today to learn more about how we can work together to help people find the good life in North Dakota. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.